Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fourth FBL Talks webinar from the Football Blacklist, supported by the Premier League. My name is Rodney Hines, co-founder of the Football Blacklist, alongside my colleague and friend Leon Mann. We're absolutely delighted that we can bring you these sessions. They seem to have gone down very, very well in the past, and we hope that's the case again this evening. So, following a super summer of sport, the new Premier League season is fast approaching. Yes, it's a truly exciting time in the football calendar, but today, the Football Blacklist Talks takes centre stage. The focus of the discussion this evening will be around highlighting positive Black role models working in community and grassroots football. This category is a special one. This is the real inspiration for what we see a lot on our TV, or what we don't sometimes see on our TV, comes to the fore. Here's where we recognise the many unsung heroes at the heart and centre of football clubs and community initiatives, making a telling difference to people's lives. With me on the panel today, I'm actually delighted to introduce Bobby Kasanga, founder of Hackney Wick FC, one of the most recognised semi-professional football teams around, earning much deserved praise for its work transforming the lives of youngsters. We also have Susan Patterson-Smith, head of Pathways and Learning at Crystal Palace's Palace for Life Foundation. She's also a previous FBL awardee. And last but by no means least, we have Tony Silsby, the Inclusion Development Officer at Albion in the community. Now, that's Brighton we're talking about when we talk about Albion, not West Bromwich Albion. And bearing in mind that famed rivalry between Crystal Palace and the team down the road of Brighton, there won't be any aggravation today, I'm sure. It'll all be good, positive information. As always, you can follow the Football Blacklist across social media on Twitter, Instagram and LinkedIn, and interact with us using the hashtag FBLTalks. Now, nominations for the Football Blacklist are open, right? So it's a very, very important part of what we do. I shall give you a little bit more information as we go along. There's a graphic on the screen for you to see. Nominations are open. We at the Football Blacklist are nothing unless we get nominees and nominations generally put forward to us. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through the evening. So Bobby, Susan and Tony, good evening. How are you?
Good evening.
Good evening, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, really
Bobby,
good.
first of all, you've got to explain to those watching where you are.
So I'm actually in Mabley Green, where we actually train, all of our teams train. We're doing a photo shoot for an article. It started at 3:30 and it sort of overrun, so I wouldn't have had time to go home. So I thought I'll find a lovely bench in the park and sit down.
Fantastic. Now you can see Bobby's commitment straight away, can't you? And we'll be talking about that commitment that has done so much to put Hackney FC on the map. Susan, how are you? Tell us a little bit about what you do as head of Pathways, please.
I'm really well, Rodney. Thanks for having me. What I do, I lead on, I would say, more community development. So how do I explain this in 2 seconds? I lead on the NCS program. Everyone knows what NCS is, I'm sure. Outward bound, life skills, life changing for 16 to 17-year-olds in that gap between going to uni and or further education. I also lead on education, training and employability. Targeted intervention, so working with the harder to reach young people who may be involved in crime, etc. So that's kind of what I do.
Okay, and Tony, good afternoon. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm all good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, could you just tell us a little bit about your role as development inclusion manager at Brighton and Hove Albion, please, Tony?
So I work in the inclusion department, so that covers everything from our more traditional kicks type activities all the way through to working with people with learning difficulties, people with rehabilitation challenges, and everything in between, primarily in areas of deprivation, and really using football to have the biggest impact on people's lives. So it's the enjoyment of football, the enjoyment of getting together, but running through a very deliberate and supported program of self-development.
Okay, thank you for that, Tony. And we'll go back to our man at Mabley Green. Bobby, just give us
Yep.
a flavour of what you do at Hackney Wick. I obviously know that, but we have a growing and new audience all the time with these FBL talks. Tell us a little bit about, you know, what you do and how you do what you do at Hackney Wick, please.
Yeah, sure. So looking from the outside, people just think we're a football club, which is what we are. We're a semi-professional football club. But beyond that, we're people who try to keep kids off the street through mentoring and also providing education and opportunities for young people, not just the ones that are in prison, but the ones on the outside, but also the ones in prison, and not just for young people, but also adults.
And I'll stay with you, Bobby. I mean, you've all got inspirational stories, and we'll knock that around, obviously, and we'll talk about what you do. But Bobby, I know there was a time, from what I've read about you, right? Because I admire you from afar. I see you on social media. I see what you're doing. There was a time when you fell out of love with the game, wasn't there?
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
There was a time when you fell out of love with football, from what I understand.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I've fallen out of love with it. It's just that I was caught up in the wrong things, and by being caught up in the wrong things, the devil makes use of idle hands, and I got led by the streets, and by doing that is it was a turning point, and it's what I kind of use now in regards to how I navigate and how I talk with the youth, because is that just one moment of distraction that pulls you away from what was your passion. And because of I lost my passion, I found myself getting myself into trouble, and then found myself in prison.
And what was, if you like, the road for recovery for you, Bobby? Was it football? Was it new friendships? What was it that put you back on that path?
A bit of both. While I was in prison, there was so many talented young people that I would find, and as I'd played semi-professional football before I went to prison, I was sort of amazed that none of them knew about semi-pro football. They all just thought you had to be a professional footballer. I'm like, no, there's such a thing as semi-pro, the way you can earn a modest living while still playing or while still having a job. So it's also while I was in there, I was studying. So upon my release, I was like, you know what, I want to get back into football. And I knew the Borough of Hackney didn't have its own sort of team. I had a daughter that was born as well, and I just saw so many older people than me who's going back and forth into prison. I was like, you know what, I can't have that be my story. That can't be a part of my narrative that, oh, this guy's always in and out of prison. So I thought, you know what, I'm gonna make the change. I was always quite intelligent in school, so I always felt even stupid being in prison in the first place. So I used all of that as a combination to sort of just really pull through and create this team.
Fantastic, inspirational story. On to you, Susan. You've talked, from what I've seen in the past, about making sure that young people can lead safe and healthy lives. How are you achieving that in your job role in the Palace Foundation?
I think, to be fair, the start is to build a rapport with those young people. It has to start at that level. You've got to be relatable. You've got to be able to connect with what they're connecting with and care about what they care about. You know, it's one thing to go in and say, yeah, we want to get you into a job. We want to get you into further education. But do they want to get into further education? Do they want to get into a job? What do they want? You know, sit down, have that conversation. And that's where it starts. When young people see that you care about them, they'll open up and they'll try pretty much anything. But you've got to start with the rapport. And I think when you start there, you drip feed, you invite them in, you get them to come to the stadium, get them to meet, you know, other people. And from there, they start to think about changing their life. And once they're ready to change, then you have the answer. Oh, well, you want to go to college? Let me take you down to the college. Let me take you to this place. And you just start the ball rolling. But I think it starts with the conversation, and then it branches out into let's take you into the direction you want to go into. But it starts with relationship.
Absolutely right. The conversation is a really important thing, isn't it, in regards to getting things started. Tony, I looked through my notes in regards to you. As I understand it, you've obviously done your youth work, and I think you're now saying, if you like, that where you are right now, your experience as a youth worker and your community skills are helping you in the current job. Would that be about right?
Yeah, very, very much so. I started my career as a youth worker, running play schemes, always because I had a natural tendency to have a passion for sport. You know, I kind of like used to lead around the sports elements. And as I got older and gained those qualifications, and I think it just comes back to what Sue was just talking about. It's about developing the skills that enable you to sort of empathize with the young people, understand what it is they want, and to empower them. I mean, some of the biggest successes you get are where you trust young people, where you give them that opportunity to make their own decisions. Moved from the youth work into community work. And you know, the role that I have within Albion and the community allows me to bring all those sort of previous skills together, so I can work with young people. And as Sue was saying, you know, you can work with them, you develop an empathy with them, you develop a relationship, and you allow them to take the lead. You know, and you empower them and make them feel that they're supported, and you trust them.
Staying with you, Tony. And I'll ask you all about your challenges and how you've overcome them to some degree. You, Tony, were living in Brighton, I think in the 70s, I think I saw.
Oh, you're giving the grey hair away now.
Yeah, don't worry about that. I just shaved mine off. Don't worry about that. That's all right. What was it like living in Brighton in a predominantly white era in the 70s as a black person? And how was that helping you today with what you do work-wise?
It wasn't necessarily easy. I mean, when I went to secondary school, I was quite literally the only black person in the school. Attitudes were, you know, it was a very white neighborhoods. Attitudes always just different. You know, I had all the usual stuff of, can I touch your hair? Does that come off? I remember walking down one of the sort of the main roads. I'd sat on a train with a white friend, walked down West Street, and I got stopped 4 times before I got to the bottom of the road by the police at the time. You know, and I'm pleased to say that, you know, the world has moved on and things are changing, and we just need to keep them moving in that direction. But yeah, it was kind of like, it was very isolating, and it was very difficult to sort of feel that you had support. I mean, I was very lucky that my foster brother was very supportive, and as a result, I didn't allow that to affect my self-esteem. I didn't feel that I had to behave in a way that the world seemed to want me to behave. Yeah. So I was lucky, and I think that's one of the things that I've kept with me is that having that older mentor person, which in my case was an adoptive brother. But for many of our young people, they don't have that. So if you can provide that kind of facility, so that person doesn't necessarily have any authority, but they trust you and they give you that opportunity to learn and grow, you know, and you kind of like feel that they've got your back when you do make a mistake, and they'll support you through that mistake. That for me is probably the biggest learning I brought from it.
Absolutely inspirational. Let me just move on to Susan, because I think what Tony's talking about, Bobby and Susan, is attitude and mindset. And obviously you're working with lots of young people that you can influence in a positive way. Susan, attitude and mindset, how do you get those key words and messages over to the young people that you interact with?
It has to be an example that you set yourself. It starts with me. I have to have the right attitude and mindset. You know, when I come to work, I turn up on time. When I'm introducing young people to a new program, you know, I talk to them about things like, you know, being on time, having the right attitude, speaking, you know, adapting your speech to different people, thinking about what you want for the future. I put those things into that induction. We have an induction day with a lot of the new programs that start. And we ask young people those questions, you know, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about being stopped? Do you understand what it's about? How do you feel about your manager asking you to do a task? Do you understand where that comes from and why you might struggle with it? You know, so we go through that and we get people to think about what their attitude is and their mindset before they even, you know, embark on a program. So yeah, I think it starts with us as members of staff and as coaches. And as managers, we have to be that example, and then we have the conversation with that young person to help them to think about what their own attitude and mindset is at that time.
Absolutely right. Bobby, you head up Hackney Wick FC. Attitude and mindset must be amongst the buzzwords when your players, male, female, young and old, come through the door, surely. How do you get your messages over in terms of the need and requirement to have a positive mental attitude and mindset generally?
Yeah, I mean, for us to play for the football club, you have to subscribe to volunteering, whether you like it or not. So that's part and parcel of you joining the football club. You know, at some stage throughout the year, you're going to be taking part in some form of volunteering gig. And by us doing that, it sort of gives that discipline and people understanding their roles and their responsibilities. Because when you go out to volunteer, you're not just representing yourself, you're also representing the club. Also, a few other things that we try to get everyone to do. When you come, you shake everyone's hands. There's no sort of spudding and hug. Like, you shake everyone's hand and you have a firm handshake, whether it be male or female, just so that you know that you're bringing that professional environment to the club.
Yeah.
Also, there's fines for lateness. I mean, some of them are young people not working, but we know, like, even if they can't pay their fine, then they'll have to do some form of extra bit of volunteering to give back. So it's about trying to have that positive sort of mindset, and also just having that someone that can relate to them. I mean, I'm 35, I'm much older than some of them, but I still like to see myself as a big kid sometimes. So even how I run my own personal Instagram page, it's a bit of fun, a bit of lightheartedness, making it a bit kind of a blog page. So it's somewhere that all the young people can go to. But while they're there, it's like, oh, I've got an opportunity for you. While you're there, oh, there's football. There's all these sort of things that just makes them think, you know what, that's someone that I can go to, that I can have a conversation with, and just making them know and making them believe. So there's a guy running past with his daughter on doing exercise.
No worries.
Yeah, so just about having that positive mindset that teaches them, you know what, there's anything you want to do, we can try to help you, but you also have to give back. And by giving back, you have to go with what we ask of you in the club. So we've got a set of standards and rules that they must all oblige to.
I follow you on Instagram, and you're absolutely right. It's truly inspirational. I don't ever look at your posts and don't think that something positive is happening. So yeah, keep that going. Susan, back to you. You work with individuals and organizations, obviously, as head of Pathways. Can you share a little bit about what type of organizations you work with and how they impact what you're trying to do?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, Rodney, I think I'll step back a little bit in terms of the work that we're doing at Palace. I've worked at Palace now in October, it'll be 7 years, and I actually live on the same road as the football club. And I've been living at that address for over, at that time, about 18 years. And I used to walk past the football club and not even have a clue what they were doing in there. I knew they were playing football, but I didn't have a clue what was really going on, because I just thought, I don't connect with it. At the time, I didn't like football, or I wasn't that into it. And I was like, yeah, that's not for me. You know, there's no one in there that looks like me. I don't really want to be a part of that. And that's just me as a local walking past the football club. When I started working for the football club, I was just astonished at the amount of stuff that we did as a foundation. And I just thought, no one on my street knows that this is happening. No one in the hyperlocal area knows that this is happening. So there's some sort of disconnect here. So one of the things that Palace has done really well over the last few years has really made that connection with the hyperlocal area and the football club and the foundation. And one of I'm actually, not me myself, but Palace and the managers and the SMT, we've been involved over the last year with a community partners meeting that is held every Friday. Now, to get people to attend a meeting every single Friday, and this meeting is not 1 hour long, it is like 3 hours long. I'm telling you, it's like a church service. I'm telling you, we're going to start giving offerings. It's such an amazing meeting. You have the council there, you have the police there, you have local grassroots organizations like P4YE, Mentivity. We have an organization called Walk With Me that does parenting support. All these amazing community leaders and organizations coming together for one focus, which is to support the development of young people in Croydon. And what happened was, as a result of going to that meeting, the disconnect that we had as a foundation and a club within the hyperlocal area has now moved from out here inwards. So we are now fully connected to the community with all of these organizations. So what we can't do as an organization, where we've got these wonderful programs with lovely, 3G pitch here, and we've got all this education stuff going on. No one knew about this stuff. Now people know because we're connected with the community. We're working alongside these grassroots organizations to deliver programs so that they can invite the young people from their organization into what we're doing. So that's kind of what's happening in Croydon at Palace at the moment. Just amazing community partnerships and community connections that has made a world of difference, especially during this pandemic and the lockdown. So yeah, working some great.
I mean, Susan, yours is a wonderful story because you've just admitted there that you at one stage had no connection with football, yet you were living on their patch as such. But now, and obviously the club, as you say, have to take enormous credit for reaching out. Yeah. And then you've played your part as well. Let me just go on to Tony then. Tony, connection with the local community, vital, and obviously that must be something that you do as well based on the job that you do.
Yeah, it is absolutely key. In a very similar way, I work with a neighbourhood within sort of East Brighton, which is recognised as one of the larger areas of sort of deprivation. So what I do there is I work very, very closely with all the grassroots organisations, and many of them that are not sport orientated. So over the years, Albion and the community have reached a level of engagement with the community where when the local authority are working with the community to develop a neighbourhood action plan, we are there as part of those meetings, part of those actions, to look at what do the neighbourhood want to achieve at its top strategic level. For example, increasing sort of length of health, reducing smoking, whether it's health, obesity. So we're really trying to work with the community to achieve their ultimate aims. And we look at that and go, what part of our programs can contribute to the community's aims? Mm. And as a result of that, we also therefore work with a number of organisations that mean that we've got outlets and exit routes for the young people that we do work with, where they move beyond us, because we don't necessarily want them to be with us forever. We want them to grow and progress and to move on to the next stage of their life. And when we can facilitate that movement, that's when we start to feel some real success. Mm.
Just to bring Bobby back in then, Bob, why is it that football is such a unifying force? It brings people of all backgrounds together, doesn't it? I know it doesn't always work. Maybe the Euros and the end of the Euros proving that, but the unifying force of football is so powerful, isn't it, Bobby?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, we can look at the end part of the Euros and see that as the main negative. But if you look at even before that, I guess it was a false narrative. But everyone was together, the whole nation, be it black, white, Asian, everyone wanted the England team to win. And I guess at the end, it shows people's true colours. However, I found even with Hackney Wick Football Club, I was just doing an article earlier, is that the area of Hackney Wick is going through gentrification, but you still got the boat dwellers who live here. You got the indigenous people of Hackney Wick that live in the States. You got new businesses like BT Sports coming over here. You got the hipsters. So you got all these people coming under one umbrella. And that's why we try to say with Hackney Wick Football Club, like irrespective of your background, you're all from the area. So this is the club that you should support. But that goes for most communities everywhere. You look at football as well. You got the richest directors who got their season tickets, who sit on their executive boxes, and then you got the guy who can't afford a match with a ticket, but they both support the same team. So you all kind of got that same sort of struggle, that same belief in the club that you support. And of course, it unifies people from different areas. For example, again, with Hackney Football Club, our women's team, predominantly white middle class women who come from newly gentrified Hackney and move to the area. And our first team coach for the women's team is Jaden. He was 17 when I met him. He's now 23 years old. He's the head coach of the women's team. He's come from a different background, but he's connected with these ladies, and has actually helped them to adapt their game. And now is that there's a whole camaraderie between all groups, the men's team and the women's team. So it's things like that just shows the unification of football.
We touched on the Euros there. Did you have someone from your club, Bobby, involved with Nike before the tournament started? I heard that whisper.
Yeah, so Nike got in touch with us because I mean we've got the football club to a stage now where we do get a lot of organisations come and reach out because they know sort of our reach in regards to the young people that we work with, and they wanted to do a photo shoot for the new Euros kits that were coming out and the new football boots. So we got 12 of our young players who to take part in that. They all got paid £250 each for the day. Got to keep the kits and now they're all featured across the whole of London. So that's just some of the things that they can look back upon and say, you know what, that was an experience. I got to help work with one of the biggest sports brands in the whole world, and I got to feature on their website. And we've got something else coming up with them again soon.
Yeah, fantastic. And I totally agree with you in terms of Hackney being gentrified. I was born in Hackney, and trust me, when I go through there now, I hardly recognize the place, but it's all called progress. A generic question for all of you now. We'll start with Susan. What are amongst the challenges that you face when you're trying to do your job, Susan?
Young people changing their phone numbers. No, that's a real challenge. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's where would I start? I think I said at the top of the conversation, you can, as an older person or as an organization, be thinking about, things that would be good for a young person to do. But the reality is you really don't know what they want to do. So you can put on programs, you can try to do the outreach, you can try and do the recruitment, but everyone is doing the recruitment. Everyone is offering digital skills. Everyone is offering a traineeship. Everyone is so you've got to make things really bespoke to young people. You've got to do consultation. So I guess the challenge is, how do you make things right for that young person? How do you get it right? And how do you get it right consistently? You might have one course that works really well, or one program that works really well, but then you fall down in another area. So for me, I think the challenge is really connecting with what young people really want, and not just thinking this sounds like a good idea, we're going to put this on and hope for the best. So I think that's one of the challenges.
Tony, same question to you from your viewpoint, some of the challenges that you face in your daily work.
I think one of the challenges is around taking the learning and the work that you've done with a young person and really embedding it into their relationship with their local community in a broader sense, so off the football pitch. So we may do work with a young person around self-esteem or confidence, and then you find when you're talking to them of a scenario where they've not been able to use that. So it's about trying to help them sort of take that learning and use it in a wider context and see how it applies in their life rather than just the football pitch. And that can be a challenge sometimes.
Same question to you, Bobby. Hackney Wick FC, what are some of the challenges that you face as you try to implement what you're trying to implement?
I mean, at the beginning, unlike our other two guests, they sort of not sure how the finances work with them, because if they're affiliated with Crystal Palace and Brighton, which are professional football teams. With us, we're just ourselves, and for us financially was very difficult at the beginning, trying to get sponsorship, and one sponsor will promise you something and then turn around and say, oh, they can't do it no more. So it got to a point that where we had to work hard and galvanize ourselves. So initially it was the funding aspect of it. We've now managed to secure funding for the next 5 years from the lottery, which has been amazing, which has been able for us to now able to help pay staff, help to create things and make the football club a bit more professional. In regards to the other kinds of struggles, it's just, I guess, trying to keep as many of the young people doing the positive things as possible, because we can all be here and just talk about all the positive. Oh yes, we got this kid into a job place, we got this one here, but we also must talk about our failures. There've been some kids who have fallen down the way. There's one of our players end up going to prison for attempted murder. So it's not every story is going to be successful. There'll be some failures, and what you need to do with those failures is learn from them. I mean, the guy now writes to me from prison, talks about his regrets and stuff, but it's something that we will still keep that contact with him and hopefully rehabilitate him when he comes back out.
Yeah, absolutely right. As I said, truly inspirational stuff. question for all of you again. In recent times, we've had tennis player Naomi Osaka, gymnast Simone Biles just the other day, Ben Stokes, the England cricketer, talk about their mental health and well-being. How are you dealing with that in your respective roles? I'll start off with Tony. And is it a growing challenge, and is it a growing scenario that you find that you're facing?
Yeah, I think it is, but I think one of the things that makes it feel like it's growing is the improved recognition of the mental health challenge that we all face on a daily basis, and that mental health challenges can be a continuum. Within our programs, we've embedded a 5 steps to wellbeing, which kind of underpins all of our inclusion programs. So it's about giving, which we talked about earlier, the volunteering. It's about understanding, your nutrition. It's about being active. It's about socializing. It's about taking time for yourself and appreciating the here and now. So we're very strong on supporting people through those sort of mental health challenges and assisting sort of people setting up a personal routine, whatever that may well be. And, so addressing those fundamental sort of mental health things, and obviously working with local communities and other organisations where there's been identified diagnosis. We support that person to sort of make the most of other resources available to them. Where the work that's required is beyond our remit and beyond our skill set.
Yeah, I hear you, Susan. I can see you nodding away there in agreement. So the issue of mental health and well-being, how are you dealing with that as a Palace for Life Foundation?
Yeah, I was just nodding because I think, Tony, it was just great to hear some of the tools that you mentioned, taking that time for yourself and, having someone to talk to, etc. And I was thinking about, some of the staff that, well, not just some of the staff, all of the staff that I've been working with over the last year and a half with the lockdowns and with the pandemic, etc. And one thing that I noticed is that as soon as we went into the lockdown, no one knew what was going to happen. No one knew how long this would go on for. And we were all just working. Those of us who weren't on furlough were just working. I'd get an email from my boss at 6 o'clock and I would be replying at 9 p.m. And, because I wanted to be working and I wanted to be relevant and I wanted to be valid, and it was just go. I think the key was when staff started to say, actually, I'm not okay. And the fact that we were able to say, we're not okay, we're burning out, this is too much. And it's not that any manager or any leader in the organization was telling us to do this. I think people just felt like they needed to do this because of what was happening in the world. One of the clincher moments for me was one of the managers that I work with, Chase Hill, actually, he's my targeted intervention manager. He came to me and he was saying, Sue, the mentors are out there mentoring young people. They're not able to do it face to face because of the lockdown. And so we're doing this on the telephone and they're doing it on Zoom or whatever. And he said, but do you realize now the issues of the young people that have been exacerbated by the pandemic, that information that they're sharing is now in the mentor's home because it's inside of their safe space. They're at home, but they're making the calls, but now this information is in their safe space. So they're not okay. And we need to do something about it. And I was just like, oh my God, so we started to look at things like clinical supervision and, making sure we had something in place for the mentors. But obviously this conversation spilled out into the wider workforce within the foundation. And, just lots and lots of things were shared online, different tools, similar to what Tony was mentioning, the different tools to look after yourself. We also have a Bupa kind of helpline that is through the club. We get it paid for through the club. So we were offering this out to staff and whatever. But it was just the fact that for once people felt like they could say, actually, I'm not okay. And somebody would hear that and an action was made because of it. So yes, it's been tough, but I feel that we're in a good place where we can share if we're not okay. So yeah, that's what we've been doing.
And I think you saying that we should be sharing is very, very important. Bobby, in terms of the mental health issue, does it help when the types of people I listed earlier on, Naomi Osaka, Simone Biles, does that help the young people maybe under your watch? Does that give them a license or a freedom to maybe speak up if they're not okay?
I mean, it's always good to see when other people are open and transparent about what's going on with their lives, because sometimes we like to hold things back. And when you see someone else feels comfortable to speak about what's going on with their lives, they might say, you know what, I've always wanted to speak about this, so let me actually open my mouth as well. So with our young people, we got a counsellor that started working with us throughout the summer, and there's sort of a walking sessions where young people can go in anonymously and go and speak with her. But also we do sort of workshops just to allow people know it's okay for you to not feel great. It's okay for you to actually having a quiet day or having a down day. And if you are having those moments, we're here for you to speak with. So one of the things that we do, because I run a podcast show, and I get a lot of people that these guys kind of look up to, or people from similar backgrounds, and I ask the people on my platform the same thing all the time about their mental health and would they do therapy. And I talk about myself, about how I do therapy as well. I do therapy every week. So by me saying I do therapy every single week, it allows the young people to ask questions. Okay, what does therapy entail? Okay, don't wait for me to tell you. We actually got someone that's actually going to help you guys. So it's every Thursday we got a workshop that helps these young people. And again, it'll be good to see a few more footballers who they look up to come out and speak about these things. But when you're seeing big sports stars are actually coming to open up about their feelings, about their mental health and their well-being, it can only encourage young people to actually start doing the same.
Absolutely right. I think we've all got to talk up and share. And I think those three big names that I mentioned in a very short space of time just gives people that freedom. And I think we'll actually see more of that happening as time goes by. Another general question for you all. The really speedy recent growth of the women's game, how has that impacted what you're doing, Susan, for example, at Crystal Palace? The women's game is moving in the right direction. It's moving at a pace. How have you embraced that, and how is it impacting what you do?
We have embraced it. We have lead members of staff that work on women and girls sort of programs, etc. And it's just great. It's great to have some of those women players come out and speak to the young people about their journey, you know, and when the young women and girls connect with that, they can see a pathway for themselves. So it's great that this is now coming to the forefront and people are getting a hold of it, and you know, people are excited about it because it's just another pathway for those young women, not just in football, but in terms of being able to I guess do the things that they want to do in life. You know, it might not be in football, but it might be to be a CEO of a foundation, or it might be another role within the club. So yeah, it's just that connection between you know, we can do it now, you can do it. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Absolutely right. Now, Tony, I know at Brighton you've got one of the greatest female role models of all time in Hope Powell at your football club. She's one of my favorite interviews of all time because she just tells it straight. There's such a great role model. How is the really rapid and positive development of the women's game being embraced down at Brighton and Albion in the community generally?
Oh, absolutely the same. Yeah, fantastic. We've got a number of pathway opportunities for women and girls, as well as ensuring that we've got the same sort of opportunities in our community sessions. So you mentioned Hope, and she's supported by a number of fantastic players that are also willing, you know, to come out and meet some of the women and girls that we work with. You know, they're inspirational in their own right. So we make use of having, you know, such a team around us. But yeah, I mean, what it really does is it gives the women and girls an opportunity to engage in the same things that some of our other young people have done. So even in the community venue sessions, it means they get that same opportunity for mentoring. We've got, you know, we've got a number of female coaches, so that where that's relevant and appropriate, you know, where that works. Again, coming from the adage, you know, you can only be what you can see. We find that inspirational. So we've got female coaches working with the women and young girls, as well as the rest of us. And it just means that they get the same opportunities for the mentoring, for the education, for the things that in a route that if they didn't engage in football, they wouldn't have access to.
Absolutely right. And Bobby, over to you. Oh, we've lost him. Bobby's just dropped off the line. Oh, he's back. Bobby's still there. Bob at Mabney Green. How are you embracing the speedy development over the years of women and girls football, Bob, at Hackney Wick?
I mean, we started it from the very get-go. The day Hackney Wick FC launched our first ever match against Football Beyond Borders, we also had our women's team play their first ever game on the same day. And basically how that came about is, like I said, when you play for the football club, you have to go and volunteer. So we volunteered with the Hackney Wick Women's Institute, which are called Hackney Wicked. And we went and gave them free coaching sessions. For the back of that, they really enjoyed it. And so we said, you know what, let's actually offer this on a permanent basis. So at the same month as the Hackney Wick men's team was created, the same month as the women's team, and 6 years strong now, they've had their difficulties and struggles in terms of turnout all the time. So at one point we were doing 11-a-side, and we had to swap to 5-a-side. Now we're back to 7-a-side again. So we're looking again to go back to 11-a-side in the next coming years again. But it's about now just keeping that structure going for the next few years.
Yeah, fantastic. In terms of the job and the roles that you do at your individual venues, I'll start with Tony. How rewarding is it, what you do? You're working with young people, you can see the ability, you can sometimes see the struggle, you help with the struggle. And as Bobby said, you can't help everybody, but how rewarding is it when you see young people moving, if you like, through the system or finding themselves, Tony, through football and sport generally?
It's massive. It's what we all get out of bed for, to be fair. I mean, when you go home and you've had a session with, you've maybe had a kid that you've struggled with, who's not really engaged with it particularly well, and you find that way of getting, of developing that relationship when they finally, give up that piece of information that says, yeah, I trust you. You know that they're going to be we all have the examples of, when we've got help somebody get a job and they've moved forward through that, or college. But when you can see that person, you look at that person, you think you're going to be okay. You're going to make it. Whatever make it means for them, but you know they're going to make it. When you go home after a day like that, it doesn't matter if it's been raining all day, whether it's hailing all day, whether you've been on the pitch for 8 hours. That's what it's for. That's why we do what we do.
Same question to you, Bobby. How rewarding or satisfying is it when you see young people come through who maybe started with a struggle or no struggle, I suppose, and you can see them moving on, as Tony said, in their own way?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Like I said, I like to big this up all the time. Like, our team is the youngest semi-professional team that I know, especially in our league. Our players are aged from 17 to about 22, which is a core group. So everyone that you're never going to get promoted because you need to have a bit of experience, which I understand. We've got a couple of players, Nelson is 30, Lewis is 25, and Virgil is 27. But our whole emphasis is about giving young people a chance, because I'm 35, I could still put my boots in and say, yeah, let me play. But I always think that that's doing a disservice to young people, especially when you've got games like the FA Cup, FA Vars. That's a chance for the young people to really put themselves out there and put themselves on a pedestal and be highlighted. What's a 35-year-old doing there? At that time, I had my time, I guess. But like, we got one kid, for example, Adam.
Yeah.
He come from the under 18s. And we had a new first team manager. He kind of brought his own players in. I said, look, I've got a couple of players from the under 18s. I want you to check them out. The under 18s manager has really talked well about them. Adam was one of those guys where he's very quiet, very shy. His personality is very reserved. So he didn't really game. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, we've lost you a little bit.
Oh, yeah, sorry, no, because I was getting a phone call.
Yeah,
sorry.
you're talking about Adam. You're talking very excitedly about Adam, yeah.
Yeah, so the under 18s, I want to go and watch the under 18s FA Cup match, and I see Adam on the stand sitting down watching the game. I'm like, what's going on? How's the first team training going? He's like, oh, I'm not playing at the moment. I'm like, what do you mean you're not playing at the moment? He's like, I've been removed from the group chat. So I'm like, what's going on? So I was supposed to the first team manager. I'm like, what's going on with Adam? He's like, oh, he's quiet. I've not really seen too much in regards to skill or nothing like that. I'm like, honestly, this kid is amazing. Give him a try, give him a chance. He's like, all right, cool, we'll try. So I put Adam back in the group chat. Like, Adam, go to training. Irrespective of whether or not you're playing, go to it. I actually posted this up a couple of weeks ago, actually. I actually sent him a voice note basically saying, Adam, I know you're not in the team at the moment.
Yeah.
Just keep patient. I'm trying to get into the team. It's going to happen sooner or later. I can see your talent. I just need to convince the manager to see it. I don't like to sort of interfere with the team, but I can tell the manager, look, trust me, try this kid Adam. Try this kid Adam. He tried him in a game, and the boy was outstanding. He won the game for us. He came on off the bench. At the end of it, the manager gave him a round of applause and said, you know what, I made a mistake. And I posted this on my Instagram, the whole video and everything like that as well. And just literally last week, we're back into pre-season, about to start the league. We played against our landlord, Witham. Adam had an amazing game. Witham have now signed him. So he's gone from playing from our level, now playing 2 leagues above. And he scored a hat-trick on his debut. And then I looked at the first team manager and said, look, I told you so, sort of thing. So it's those sort of things that are very satisfying to me as someone that runs a football club.
Absolutely fantastic, inspirational stuff there. To the audience listening and taking in all this great information from our guests, you can get involved in as well with this conversation if you want to send any messages, and we can post them up at the end. Football Blacklist is across the social media on Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So do get involved if there's any questions that you ask. We've got a few audience questions coming up, but I can't leave Susan out. In terms of the rewarding aspect of your job and what you do, Tony and a very excited Bobby have just shared theirs. What about yourself?
Me out, and this is my favorite question. So yeah, absolutely, so rewarding. I mean, I have countless tales. I have about 2 or 3 young people to share. I mean, I mentioned the community meeting that I've been attending, that we've been attending, and I met someone at the community meeting. She was making cakes for the meeting, like for afterwards, and she came over to me. She was like, you know, are you Susan? You know, she was like, do you recognize me? And I was like, no. And she was like, I'm Crystal's mom. She said Crystal did about 2 years ago. She did a DJ masterclass training course with you guys, and she was the only girl in the class, and she was doing, you know, amazing DJ. She now works for Capital One Extra off the back of the course that she did with you guys. And Crystal was there, and I was like, no way, Crystal's just, you know, doing her thing. Amazing outcome. And she's now coming back to talk to some of the other young people about her journey doing, you know, a program at Crystal Palace. The other person that I could think of, I won't say his name, but a young person called me. He'd done a course with us probably 4 or 5 years ago. I was the first person he called when he came out of prison. He called me and he said, Stu, I've just come out of prison. Can you help me get a job? And I was just like, this is why we do what we do. And finally, a young lady called Angel, who actually works with us in our targeted intervention team. Angel came onto a course with us when she was 16. She's now 22, I believe. And she was too cool for school, didn't want to do the course. I used to ring her up every morning, Angel, you're coming to the course, And she started to come to the course. She joined us, she was volunteering, she's just grown from strength to strength. And now she's one of our targeted intervention officers, leading on mentoring and, you know, supporting young people. So yeah, incredibly rewarding work.
Fantastic story from all 3 of you. Unbelievable. We've only got about 10, 11 minutes left, and I've still got some questions for you from the audience. If anybody wants to find out, ask a few questions via the YouTube system, feel free, and we can try to pull them up on the screen as well. We've done that in the past. I've got a question here for Bobby. It comes from a David Cumberbatch, and I think I know the answer to this question, but I'll let you answer it. It says, Bobby, what is your long-term vision for Hackney Wick FC?
I mean, the long-term vision would be sustainability, but the main thing was to have our own football ground. At the moment, we're having to ground share over in Witham, which is 45 miles away in Essex, just to play football at a semi-professional level. So, I mean, for us, we feel that if we were to get a ground in the borough of Hackney, that would change everything in regards to the whole legacy of the community and what we've done as a football club here. So that's the long-term vision.
Okay. I've got a question here from a Mark Joseph. Do you feel that clubs want more diversity of staff that reflects the many nationalities of the players on the pitch? Or do you feel that due to the Black Lives Matter movement, that clubs don't want to be seen as not inclusive? Let me ping that one over to Tony.
So run that question again. Do they
It's a bit of,
seen as not inclusive?
Yeah. Do you feel that clubs want more diversity of staff? I think I'll ask you that one, certainly. That reflects the nationalities of the players on the field? Or do you feel that due to Black Lives Matter movement, that clubs don't want to be seen as not inclusive?
Right. So I think if I'm listening to
I'm trying to work it out myself. It's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it?
Well, what we're saying is, do we feel that clubs are positively want to represent the players and the communities, or is it a negative reaction? So they're just doing it to pander. I mean, I would say I can only speak for the organisation that I work in, and I know that our organisation positively values everyone for what they bring to the table with all their experiences. So regardless of nationality, culture, history, they value all of that. And particularly, I work in the inclusion department, so I work very closely with our communities. So what we sort of recognise that where we have coaching staff that reflect the communities that we are working in, we engage better, we're able to empathise, we're able to understand our communities better, and I know that our being in the community value that in a positive way.
Good, fantastic. I've got a question here from an Andrew Ducille. In terms of career progression, what are your main tips for getting ahead? Susan, the main tips for getting ahead?
I would say do your day job really well. Start there. Do that well. Influence without a title. Bring good ideas. Do things well. Cross the T's, dot the I's. People notice that. They take note of it. And when people are taking note, they're thinking about you in a position. They're thinking about creating a position for you. So, that's what I would say. Start there, do that well, and let people say, you look like you're ready for the next step.
Same question to Bobby. In terms of career progression, Bob, what are the main tips that you'd give people watching for getting ahead? I think we might. Oh, are you there?
Sir, my mic has gone all. I can't hear you guys properly anymore. So can you repeat that, please?
Okay. Can you hear me at the moment?
Yeah, I can hear you, but my phone just gone fuzzy for some reason.
All right. The question is, in terms of career progression, Bob, what are your main tips for getting ahead?
Consistency and networking. I mean, I tried to network when I started football club. I was networking.
I think the technology has gotten the better of Bobby live and direct from Mabley Green in Hackney, but no problems. Susan, if someone wanted to do what you're doing now, what's a starting point for them?
They'd have to kill me first. But
not necessarily your job. We'll take them to a different club.
I think I don't know. I think at the foundation we value diversity, but also not just diversity in terms of people's background, but diversity of thought. When I came to Palace, I had no clue about football. I didn't know the offside rule. I didn't know anything. And, I just came in and I was just myself. I knew a lot about education and learning. And so I did what I do well. And I learned the ropes. I'd ask people questions and I would, find out about things and I'd talk to people. And then I kind of gradually learned how things work. And you just go from there. I think you've got to be eager. You've got to be willing. You've got to be open to learning something new and don't be stuck in your old ways. But I think just come in and be yourself, know what you're not. If you're not good at budgets, say I'm not good at budgets, and learn about it. Learn as you go and you will get there. That's what I would say to people.
And Tony, the same question to you. If someone wants to get involved at the level that you're involved, what are those early steps or things that they need to do?
Well, I think the things that have been expressed so far, I would absolutely agree with all of those things. And I suppose, particularly when you're working in communities and inclusion, it's passion. You've got to really, really want to be, as we mentioned before with the question earlier, you've got to want to go home feeling that you've made a difference. That's got to be the driver, you know, to get to move towards that. It's all the things that Susan mentioned and that Bobby mentioned. It's about dotting the I's, crossing the T's, turning up early, being open, being willing to learn. I think that the point that Susan made just now about be honest with yourself, you know, so if there's something you can't do or something you're not inclined towards, be honest, work it out, but be prepared to learn, and work hard at it. But yeah, ultimately, for me, it's all about passion. It's about wanting to looking at maybe a social topic and going, that's not right. So I'm going to do something. I'm going to take responsibility for doing something about that, even if that may only be a small drop in the ocean. But for the person that you work with, it could be a life-changing thing. So just because we can't change the world doesn't mean we shouldn't try.
Absolutely right. We have rattled by after 57 minutes, right? Absolutely amazing. Before I thank my guests, I've got to just confirm once again that the Football Blacklist nominations are now open. And you can follow the Football Blacklist across social media on Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And please do share the words of wisdom that our guests have delivered today. It's been absolutely sensational. And of course, the Football Blacklist is all about recognizing people from the community. And our guest today, I mean, we've had some tremendous sessions in the past. This one, for me, it seems like it's gone to another level. The little nuggets of wisdom that you've shared. Bobby showing his total commitment at Mabley Green, which might have slightly got the better of him towards the end, has been absolutely sensational. So Football Blacklist nominations are open across social media, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And as I said, the people that you've seen on the call today are the types of people that the Football Blacklist was developed for. People that generally don't get the profile, etc., etc. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to Bobby Kasanga of Hackney Wick FC. Susan, you've been absolutely special there at the Crystal Palace Foundation. And Tony, thank you for joining us there for Album in the Community. If people want to capture our FBL talks, it's all done via the FBL YouTube channel. I think we've got about a minute and a half to go. Even in his absence, I'm going to have to thank Bobby. Susan, thank you so much for your time. And the same to Tony as well. I will be visiting Palace and Brighton over the next couple of months, and I will try my very best to make sure I let you know in advance so that we can touch base. This is what the Football Blacklist is all about. It's all about connecting because we are stronger all together, aren't we? You know what I mean? So thank you for that. So to Tony, Bobby, and Susan, thank you so much for your time. As I said, you can follow the Football Blacklist across all social media, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. As I said, please just share all the information that has been there on view today. Thanks again, and let's keep working together to diversify the football industry and celebrate Black excellence, because that's what we've had on the line today. We'll catch up with you all next month. Thanks again.